apologize and ask for your understanding for being late today. I was at the House and Senate and testifying on two particular bills that I think probably offer us the most likely and significant help when it comes to our budget deficit that we're facing. We've been talking about a $15 to $17 million deficit, and that's going to change probably over time as we monitor our spending and monitor the legislative session and look at openings in our system. But that's a significant number in a $170 million operating budget. You're talking about like 10%. And there's like three things that are contributing to that. And again, my apologies if this is redundant for a lot of you. But one we talked about today was ESSER funding is going away. $5 to $6 million a year that we've been getting for pandemic relief. The second thing is that our enrollment is going down. We have about 700 plus students fewer than we did in 2019-20. If those students were here, that's about $10 million. And that decline in enrollment is particularly at the lower grades, kindergarten, first and second grade. That's a statewide phenomenon. And then the third thing is that we knew that when the McCleary fix happened 3.5, 4 years ago, that it didn't do us any favors in Olympia. And I remember Director Clifthorne at the time saying, when the pandemic hit, he said, you know, this is going to just delay the inevitable. We're going to be right back dealing with this problem as soon as this federal money goes away. It's one of the reasons why we hired Ryan Howland to go out and get grants to help us find at least some funding to offset that. But the thing that I testified about today was specifically about special education. And you heard a lot about students receiving special education services in our monitoring report. Special education is a legal requirement. It's a federal right for families and students who have a disability that impacts their ability to learn. And if you didn't know, in the state of Washington, the law right now currently reads that you can only have 13.5% of your students receive special education services. Any students above 13.5%, they're not going to fund. In the Olympia School District, about 16% of our students receiving special education services. So if you have 10,000 students, 13.5% is 1,350. 16% is 1,600. There's 250 kids that aren't being funded. If you count preschool, we're up closer to 18% of our students are receiving special education services. And that number keeps rising. And one of the reasons why we might be wondering that is happening at the state level too. I have my own theories on that. One is I believe that our teachers and our paraeducators in our schools do an amazing job. Doesn't mean we can't get better, and there are problems here and there, but overwhelmingly, I hear about people so grateful for their teachers and their educators in their child's special education classroom and school. People move here, told me that they moved to this district for that reason. That's one of the reasons why our numbers are going up. Another reason I would say is that as this economy is changing, I believe, and this is a theory and I don't have anything to back it up, but I believe a lot more people are staying home, working from home. I'm sure there is data to back that up. We've all seen that. Offices are empty. But by staying home, especially with your younger child, you can stay home with your younger child. And there's online programs and there's things that you can do. And you probably could give yourself a little bit of a pay raise too, because you wouldn't need childcare. And so that could be, again, that's a theory, contributing to why our special education as a percentage of all of our students is going up. All that being said, if you're the mom or the dad or the parent or guardian of a student with special services, it's really hard for you to do occupational therapy at home, or physical therapy at home, or speech and language pathology at home. Parents and families that have students that have special needs, send them to our schools and we welcome them with open arms and give them everything we can with the resources that we have. But that cap is arbitrary, and it's the equivalent of putting a sign on the door and saying, sorry, no vacancy. We already met our limit at 13.5%. We don't don't do that. So we were petitioning up there tonight to tell them to lift that cap, and we'll wait and see. But we put stuff on our website. If you want to reach out to people, talk about that, I think that would be worthwhile, because we subsidize special education out of our enrichment levy to the tune of $10 million. And I said to one of the senators tonight, special education services is not enrichment. It's a legal right. So the other factor is something called the multiplier. So when you have students that are receiving special education services, they're a general education student first. They're just like any other kid that walks through the door. They get funding that comes with that. Then there's this fraction that they multiply times that amount, and you get additional funding. And that multiplier is really low. And there are some bills that would increase that multiplier that would also help us significantly. And then the third part has to do with safety net. When you have really expensive services, that we can go out and ask for additional funding on that, and it can be pretty cumbersome. So there's some laws that would help in that regard. So that was the bulk of what we were speaking about today, but there's other things that can help us as well in terms of transportation and mental health support and things like that. So I would encourage people to look at that.